The cry of innocence. In the heart of the Middle East, where ancient histories collide, there is a generation of children who have known nothing but conflict. Their laughter is drowned by the sound of sirens, their dreams overshadowed by walls and barbed wire. This is the story of Palestine's children, a story of resilience, pain, and hope. For decades, the world has watched as the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has unfolded, a struggle rooted in history, identity, and land. But behind the headlines and political debates are the faces of children, innocent souls caught in a cycle of violence and despair. This documentary is not just about the conflict, it is about the human cost. It is about the children who wake up to the sound of explosions, who walk to school past soldiers and checkpoints, who dream of a world where they can simply be children. We will explore the origins of this conflict, the heartbreaking reality of life under occupation, and the voices of those who refuse to give up hope. Together, we will seek solutions, because every child deserves a future free from fear. This is their story. This is our call to action. The roots of the conflict. A historical perspective. To understand the present, we must first look to the past. The land we now call Israel and Palestine has been a crossroads of civilizations for thousands of years. It is a place sacred to Jews, Christians, and Muslims, a land where history and faith intertwine. In ancient times, this was the land of Canaan, home to the Israelites, Philistines, and countless other peoples. Jerusalem, its heart, became a holy city for all three Abrahamic faiths, a place of pilgrimage, prayer, and profound significance. For centuries, Jews, Christians, and Muslims lived side by side, sometimes in harmony, sometimes in tension. But the seeds of modern conflict were sown in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, as nationalism began to rise across the world. For Jews, the dream of a homeland was born out of centuries of persecution, culminating in the horrors of the Holocaust. For Palestinians, it was a fight to protect their ancestral land from foreign rule. In 1917, the Balfour Declaration promised a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine, then under British control. This declaration ignited hope for Jews, but sowed fear among Palestinians, who saw their land being promised to others. The British Mandate period, from 1920 to 1948, was marked by growing tensions. Jewish immigrants fleeing persecution in Europe arrived in Palestine, while Arab Palestinians resisted what they saw as a threat to their way of life. Then came 1948, a year that changed everything. The creation of the State of Israel was a moment of triumph for Jews worldwide, but for Palestinians, it was the Nakba, the catastrophe. Over 700,000 Palestinians were displaced from their homes, becoming refugees overnight. Families were torn apart, villages were destroyed, and a deep wound was inflicted on the Palestinian psyche. In 1967, the Six-Day War saw Israel occupy the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem. The occupation brought with it military rule, settlements, and a new wave of displacement. For Palestinians, it was another chapter in a story of loss and struggle. This is the historical backdrop against which today's children are growing up. A conflict born of competing narratives, unhealed wounds, and a longing for justice on both sides. The plight of Palestine's children. Imagine being a child in Palestine. Imagine waking up to the sound of explosions, walking to school past soldiers and checkpoints, and knowing that your home could be demolished at any moment. This is the daily reality for millions of Palestinian children. In the West Bank, children grow up under military occupation. They see their parents humiliated at checkpoints, their siblings arrested, and their homes destroyed to make way for settlements. For many, the journey to school is a dangerous one, fraught with fear and uncertainty. In Gaza, the situation is even more dire. The blockade has turned the Strip into what many call an open-air prison. Children here live in poverty, with limited access to clean water, electricity, and healthcare. They have survived multiple wars, each leaving behind a trail of destruction and trauma. Education, a beacon of hope for many, is under constant threat. Schools are often targeted in conflicts, and students face harassment on their way to class. Yet despite these challenges, Palestinian children continue to dream. They dream of becoming doctors, engineers, and artists. They dream of a world where they can live in peace. But the scars run deep. Many children suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, and depression. They have seen too much, endured too much for their young hearts to bear. Yet, amidst the pain, there is resilience. Palestinian children are finding ways to express themselves through art, music, and poetry. They are refusing to let their spirits be broken. But the question remains, how long must they endure this suffering? How long must they wait for a chance to simply be children? The Israeli perspective, understanding the other side. To truly understand this conflict, we must also listen to the other side. For Israelis, this land is not just a piece of territory, it is their ancestral homeland, a place of refuge after centuries of persecution. The Holocaust, in which 6 million Jews were murdered, is a defining chapter in Jewish history. It reinforced the need for a safe haven, a place where Jews could live free from fear. For many Israelis, the conflict is about survival. They point to rocket attacks from Gaza, suicide bombings, and the constant threat of terrorism as reasons for their military presence in the West Bank and blockade of Gaza. Israeli children, too, have grown up in the shadow of conflict. Those living near Gaza have spent nights in bomb shelters, fearing rocket fire. They, like their Palestinian counterparts, yearn for peace. But peace cannot be achieved without understanding. It cannot be achieved without acknowledging the pain and aspirations of both sides. This is not a conflict of good versus evil. It is a tragedy of two peoples, each with their own story, each with their own wounds. The human cost, voices from both sides. Let us now listen to the voices of those who live this reality every day. From Palestine, we hear the story of a mother who lost her son to an airstrike. He was just a child, she says, her voice trembling. He wanted to be a doctor. Now he is gone. From Israel, we hear the story of a father whose daughter was injured in a rocket attack. No child should have to live like this, he says. We just want to live in peace. These are not just stories. They are cries for humanity. They remind us that behind the politics and the headlines are real people, real families, real dreams. But there is also hope. Across the divide, there are Israelis and Palestinians working together for peace. They are building bridges, one conversation at a time. They are proving that coexistence is possible. Pathways to peace, a vision for the future. The road to peace is long and fraught with challenges, but it is not impossible. A two-state solution, where Israel and Palestine exist side by side, remains the most viable path forward. But it requires compromise, courage, and a commitment to justice. Grassroots movements are leading the way, bringing Israelis and Palestinians together to build trust and understanding. Education, too, is a powerful tool. By teaching children about empathy and coexistence, we can break the cycle of hatred. The international community must also play its part by supporting humanitarian efforts and holding both sides accountable for violations of human rights. But peace begins with us. It begins with our willingness to listen, to empathize, and to act. Let us not forget the children of Palestine and Israel. Let us work together to give them the future they deserve, a future of peace, hope, and possibility. The power of humanity. In the end, this is not just a story about conflict, it is a story about humanity. It is a reminder that we are all connected, that the pain of one is the pain of all. The children of Palestine and Israel deserve more than this cycle of violence. They deserve a chance to dream, to laugh, to live. Let us be the generation that says enough. Let us be the generation that chooses peace. As we close, let us remember the words of a Palestinian poet, "Even in the darkest night, there is a star that shines." Let us be that star. Let us shine a light on the path to peace. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. Together, we can make a difference.